If you are sitting there daydreaming about how fluent your Spanish is going to get this year, stop it. No, seriously, just stop it now. So many Spanish learners actually sabotage themselves when they are planning ahead for the future, and even when they're thinking back on what they've already done. I'm going to tell you why this is and exactly what you can do to avoid making these same mistakes so that you can set yourself up for success this year. Comencemos, amigos. What's up, language leaders? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, hello, my name is Erica. I'm a Spanish coach, teacher, and storyteller, and I have Spanish learners like you go from frustrated, bored, and completely overwhelmed to organized, clear, and super confident with their routines so they can finally stick to their routine and accomplish those beautiful Spanish conversations that they so desire. If that is your desire, then go ahead and join this growing family by hitting that subscribe button and that bell. Measuring your progress in Spanish can be an incredible motivational tool. There's nothing like being able to see clearly, I was here and now I'm here, to give you that boost that you need to really keep it going. But when done incorrectly, trying to measure your progress can have the exact opposite effect. And it can actually leave you feeling like you've made zero progress, even when that's not even true. So let's ask two imaginary Spanish learners, imaginary but very much based on reality, what their perception is of what they accomplished in the last year. And when we break that down, that's going to help us determine how we should be setting up our plan, or what some factors are that we should keep in mind when we are planning ahead for the future. So learner A says, well, okay, what did I do with my Spanish last year? Well, I know I did some reading. It wasn't as much as I wanted to do. Also, I would text with some friends sometimes back and forth in Spanish. As usual, I didn't understand everything that they were saying. I could tell I'm far away from fluency. And I actually had a few conversational lessons with a tutor. I thought I was ready for that. And I started out pretty good. Like the first few minutes went well, and then it just got challenging. Everything was pretty much downhill from there. Eventually, I just kind of gave up on that. I'm really not ready, and I really wanted to get conversational this year, but I'm just not ready for that. Okay, that's learner A. That's learner A's perception of what she did last year. Let's ask the second learner, learner B. So learner B says, well, I managed to read 6 short stories in Spanish last year. And I'll admit, the first few, like the first 3, they were really challenging. I had to go through them several times in order to understand the plot. I was probably using a dictionary more than I really wanted to, looking up several words. But by about the 4th story or so, really the time that it would take me to consume it was pretty much cut in half, and I was relying on the dictionary a lot less because I just recognized so many new words now. And also, at least once per week, I would make sure to take the time to jump on my language exchange app and text with various people, all in Spanish. And admittedly, I didn't always have those words that I needed to express myself, but eventually I noticed that they were sending me a lot fewer corrections than before. So that lets me know that my writing is really improving. And because of all of that texting, writing practice that I was having with different people on this language exchange app, well, what I found was that I really started to master my self-introduction in Spanish. So talking about who I am, where I'm from, where I live currently, why I'm learning Spanish, what I do for a living, those plans that I have for traveling around Latin America in the upcoming years. I would say that over and over again as I had different conversations. And when I would talk to the same person as last week, what we would chat about is what we've been up to, what we did last week. So I had to look up a lot of words at first, but then it became a lot easier for me to write about those things that form part of my daily routine. So then I decided that it was time to take that to conversation. I didn't just want to write about it. So I did sign up for some tutoring sessions, and I decided to make my focus for those first few sessions, like the first 4 sessions, really all about fluently being able to speak about my self-introduction, what I did last week, since those are themes that come up all the time when I meet new people, even in real life. And as a final note, when I'm analyzing what I did last year, I noticed that really outside of those tutoring sessions, which were, about half an hour to an hour a week, I wasn't doing much listening. My listening comprehension has kind of suffered as a result. That's something that I would like to add more of into my routine. So clearly we all want to be like learner B. But in order to do that, we need to understand what those key mistakes are that learner A made and what learner B did right so that we can make sure that we imitate that ourselves. So learner A had no specific goal. She was kind of just winging it. Learner B had at least one specific speaking goal in mind and she acted on it. Learner A didn't document anything and learner B did make notes along the way about what she was doing with her Spanish. Also, perhaps most importantly, learner A was very negative about what she perceived to be her progress and learner B was more positive. All right, so what do we learn? What can you do? The first thing that you can do is to set one specific goal at a time, at least when it comes to your output. Output meaning writing and speaking. So if we notice, learner A had maybe what she considered goals, but they were very broad. She said that she wanted to get conversational this year. What is that? What does that even mean? Conversational about what? She said that she feels like she's far away from fluency. Guys, if you are setting your goals and the word fluent or fluency or anything like that come into the goal, if you write down that word or if you even think about that word, scratch it and start over because that is not a goal. That is way too broad to be a goal. Everyone has a different definition of fluency. You're not even going to know when you reach that. It is far too broad. You have to get a lot more specific. Learner B did just that. She got a lot more specific. She found that what she really wanted to work on first was how to talk about herself, like when she meets someone new. Another specific goal that she had was to be able to talk about what she's been up to, about like in the previous week. Again, something super practical, not only for her language exchanges, for her tutoring sessions, but also for real life with friends. You haven't seen your friend for a few days. That's just kind of what you automatically talk about, what you've been up to. So she said these specific goals. She even said, during the first few tutoring sessions, maybe the first 4 or 8 tutoring sessions, this is what I really want to focus on. And then she was able to accomplish it. She was able to concretely be able to say, I did this. And that may sound simple. And you may think, well, I want to be able to speak about more than that. And of course you will be able to. But even though it sounds simple, that wasn't a small accomplishment. I mean, think about everything that she would have had to have done to accomplish that. She would have had to work with some past tenses to be able to talk about her previous week. She would have had to have come into all of that new vocabulary to be able to describe her daily activities. So it may sound simple, but in reality, it's no small accomplishment. And she recognized that and was super happy that she had been able to check that off of her list. It even gave her more confidence in the beginning of those tutoring sessions when she could have felt a little more nervous to know, I got this first part and now let's see what's left to come. And she even put a time frame on it. So she said, during those first 8 weeks or 4 weeks, it could have been any time frame. But the point is that it was short. She knew she wasn't going to be working on that all year. Eventually she was going to go to the next goal. But it gave her something to focus on and something to be able to check off of her list. And the interesting thing is that she didn't try to plan out her entire year ahead of time. She didn't even start out with this one goal in mind. It was rather through kind of trial and error and noticing, this always comes up. Let me just take a few weeks to focus on it, that this goal became clear for her. So don't try to plan out your entire year in advance and don't have goals that are too broad. Think about that next thing that you want to do, which is related to your output. Okay, so you're speaking, you're writing. These are performance-based goals so that you can clearly see, I couldn't do this before and now I can, or I couldn't do this as well before and now I can. So choose that one thing and then create an action plan behind it that's going to get you there. Before we go on, go ahead and drop me a note in the comments to let me know what is your next specific goal. Okay, I would love to know what that is. What is that next thing that you want to be able to really fluidly and confidently write about or speak about? Tell me in the comments here. And if you want to know more about how to attach action steps to your specific goals, then I highly recommend that you go check out my free masterclass, my Framework to Fluency masterclass. You can find that at ericaraylanguage.com/masterclass or click on the link up here or down here. And trust me, your vision, your understanding of what an optimal plan for you could look like is going to be completely different after you take that class. So I highly recommend it, ericaraylanguage.com/masterclass. masterclass. Learner A made a second mistake. She wasn't documenting anything that she was doing. She was kind of just winging it. So when she tried to think back on what she had actually done, she couldn't really remember. I did some reading, I don't know how much, and just kind of this and that. So if she wanted to do something, if she wanted to make a change in her routine in order to make it more efficient, more effective, in order to improve, how could she do that when she didn't even know what she had been doing so far? It's very hard to remember what we've done when we're not writing anything down. Learner B, she did some journaling, she did some documenting. She even knew that she had read 6 short stories that year in Spanish, and she actually found a hole in her routine. She discovered, I'm lacking in my listening comprehension, and when I look at my notes, I see that I'm not really doing much listening at all. I'm reading, I'm texting, I'm having a 1 time a week tutoring session, but outside of that, I'm not listening much. That's a hole that needs to be filled. She probably wouldn't have realized that. She probably just would have been on
the pity party of my listening comprehension. It's so bad, it's so bad. I've been learning for this many months, this many years, and it's so bad.
And she wouldn't have been able to, or no one would have been able to pinpoint why if she didn't know what she'd been doing so far. What can you do? Do that same thing. Do some journaling. The more the better. If you want to make a few notes daily, that's great. But even if you can take 5 minutes per month just to kind of make some notes on where you feel like you are with your Spanish, what you've been doing with your Spanish, how you're feeling, that's going to be an incredible thing to look back on a few months from now, a year from now. The more often you look at those notes, the better, because you're going to be able to see, just like Learner B, where you're lacking, and you're also going to be able to see your progress. On the input side, your own perception of how your listening is improving, how your reading comprehension is improving, really is enough. Okay, we don't need a percentage like, I can understand about 80%. They're telling me that my listening comprehension is about at a 70%. You don't really need anyone else to tell you that. You're going to be able to tell yourself if you are improving, if you're staying the same. And that's the beauty of being an independent language learner. You start to become a lot more self-aware, and then you can make those micro adjustments that you need to create an even more effective routine. Learner A was also very negative and hard on herself, and we can hear that in her language. I did some reading, but it wasn't as much as I wanted to. I had these exchanges with some friends, but as usual, I didn't understand everything. So she's saying, as usual, this is my pattern of behavior. Subconsciously, she's saying it's probably not going to get any better. This is just negative self-talk. It's another language that you're learning. Of course, you're not always going to understand everything. Can we start to normalize that? It's okay. Learner B had very different language. She was saying, I was able to understand the plot. It got a lot easier over time. I found that they were sending me fewer corrections. I'm improving. I really mastered that first part of my tutoring session, the self-introduction, what I did last week. I mastered that. She's not understanding everything either. Maybe 6 stories is not what she had planned to read either, but she's just simply focusing on those positive points, on the progress that she was able to make. And so you better believe that she is much more likely to keep it going than our first learner, who's probably just going to give up due to discouragement. Be positive about what you've done and what you're doing. Your progress may not compare to someone else's due to your circumstances or due to how much of a priority learning Spanish is for you. Generally, the more urgently that you need to learn it, the more time that you're going to spend on it. And so for so many reasons, you just can't compare yourself to other people, but you can compare yourself to yourself. You can compare the you now to the you last month and 6 months ago and a year ago and celebrate everything that you've done, while of course being humble enough to be able to see where you're lacking and why. And that combination of positivity and proactive change is what's going to really, really set you up for success this year and all the years to come. Let's recap briefly. These are the 3 things that I want you to have in mind as you're planning for this year and for all the years to come. The first one is to not actually try to plan out your entire year. Rather, just have the next 1 or 2 specific outcome-based goals in mind and attach those action steps to that goal. Journal or document the things that you're doing with your Spanish at least every once in a while. I would say minimum once a month. Better is once a week. Even better is every day, but whatever you can do, just document some things about what you're doing with your Spanish. It's going to keep you accountable. It's going to keep you honest. It's going to keep you more consistent, and you're going to be able to more clearly see where you need to make changes in your routine. Be positive and celebrate your wins. Focus more on the positive. Language learning is a lifelong experience. There is no end to it, so you better be enjoying the ride. And if you are not brand new to learning Spanish, if you were working with Spanish last year as well, I want you to just think for a moment and tell me, what is one of the best things that you did with your Spanish last year? Whatever it was, however simple it was, however complex it was, what is your favorite Spanish memory? Was it greeting your new neighbor? Was it enjoying a new story? What was that thing that you were finally able to do? Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you want to really get into how to attach those specific action steps to the goals that you're going to set for yourself, then go ahead and check out my masterclass, aircarrierlanguage.com/masterclass. I'll see you soon, but until next time, don't forget to go out and live your new language today. Bye-bye.